business, fellas. Look here.
Stand by.
One for C-Lab, two for Troy Eagle, three for Wolverine to round out the trio. In this episode, everybody dies.
Broadcasting live from inside the Power Band, this is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm your host, the Wolverine, along with my intrepid, heroic friends, Jarhigo.
Hey.
And C-Lab forever.
What's up?
Welcome to the podcast, folks. This week, we have a very special show. We have two very special guests, and this show will be soaked in chainsaw blood and comedy goodness. That's right, we've got Adam Gale and Tristen Stafford, the creative duo behind the independent film The Pretenders, which is running through the festival circuit right now. And we're going to be talking about their film a little bit, and we also allowed them to choose this week's film, as we do with our guests. And they have chosen the 1974 horror classic and independent film classic, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Let's get to it. Boys, welcome to the show.
How's it going, man? Thanks for having us.
Hello, excited to be here.
Welcome.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
I'm feeling welcome.
Appreciate you.
That was tough.
Yeah, it was tough. It's over though. It's okay. We got through it.
You know, I think the vines are a little deeper now. Let's go.
Let's go, man.
So for the sake of the audience, since this thing's in the festival circuit and very few people will have access for a little while, do you want to give us just like a brief synopsis of what the movie's about?
Yeah, so it's the movie's called Pretenders, and it's about three friends who go on this beach vacation after kind of not really, being together as a group in a while, and they kind of catch each other up to speed on life. It's a coming-of-age movie, and, intertwined in this coming-of-age movie is this little schemy plot to sort of pretend to be other people where, if you see somebody in a bar, it's like, hey, my name is this, and you can kind of throw in an alias. I don't know. Those themes kind of let us talk about a lot of bigger, concepts. Like queerness and identity is a really big issue in this for me. Mm-hmm. And specifically, I wanted to tell a story about queer characters that wasn't, lesbians in the 1820s without, electricity, and they're struggling against the society. I don't need it. It's every single movie ever. And I don't know. I was like, what if we just made these queer characters struggling with their identity, but put them in roles you typically see straight male characters in? And let's kind of see how that goes. Let's just see if that hits any buttons. So that's kind of where it all came into be.
Nice.
But I mean, I think just kind of pausing and talking about that for a second, like I didn't think about the film that way, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all. Like, I mean, it was obvious that Jasper was gay, but I didn't think about it as an LGBTQ. Did I say that right? LGBTQ? Is that right?
Yeah.
I want to say it right.
That's kind of that was sort of the angle in.
Well, yeah. If that's what you were doing, you succeeded, because I didn't really think about that at all. I just thought of the characters as the characters, and whatever they were was whatever they were. You know what I mean? And I wasn't hyper-focused on that.
Yeah, that was kind of the goal.
Well, good. Well, then you nailed it, man, because I that's how I thought about it. And I actually didn't know that until I read that. I didn't read the blurb, I think, that was underneath the thumbnail caption and the link that you sent us, Adam. So I read it afterward, and I was like, oh, oh my God, I can't be fucking this up again.
We know what you mean.
Yeah.
LGBTQ, is that right? LGBTQ?
You missed a few.
This is all right. Well, that's a death for me. So let me just write that down.
I have no. So I am a queer person, and we'll get into this more, I'm sure. But as a relatively recently queer person, I still have no idea the amount of gay jokes I can make. So I'm a little on eggshells right now.
There you go.
I feel like I can say it, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. We kind of steer away from all of that stuff and political stuff too, just for the sake of.
Yeah.
It ties into the movie a little bit because.
No, I'm saying joking about it.
Well, I mean, in a way though, it still ties in because here I am, like a recently queer person. My entire life for 23 years at the time, I did not have the societal impact that a typical queer narrative had, in a movie on my own psyche and my person.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, that DNA finds its way into Pretenders, where you don't think of it as a queer movie because I'm not coming at it from a queer perspective of somebody who's had the history of it. I'm coming at it from somebody who went through life as a straight passing person, realizing that there are things, I don't want to say like deeper than the queer aesthetic you see in movies, but in a way, deeper than that I think are worth talking about. And they're a little bit drier and like not as gritty, and maybe they're not really as easy to talk about because they're just so, I don't know, being a recently... I'm a straight passing queer person who's been straight, relatively my entire life. So it's like, what right do I have in that community? But at the same time, I am in that community. So I think there's a tone of that in Pretenders.
I think I echo Kev where I took the characters at face value in terms of how they describe themselves or, acted in terms of what you see is what you get. And
exactly.
And it kind of felt normal for younger characters to be unsure of who they are as people and potentially for them to give each other a little bit of shit about the queer element where, the other girl that's not Jasper gets a bit of shit for kind of hooking up with Jasper, So it's super like what you would expect from young kids who don't know who they are quite yet. And that is definitely one of the main threads of the movie is the unsureness with which everyone approaches themselves.
Yeah, everyone's just figuring their shit out in life. And, people are people,
Yeah.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I think whatever you were aiming for, like the movie is going to speak to anybody. I mean, for the three of us looking back down on that time in our lives, like it didn't register everybody's sexual orientation. I could have cared less, to be honest with you. I was just identifying with where everybody was at in their life. And it was the same, like it doesn't really matter. It's like, you're still struggling, period. You're like, everybody's struggling with identity. It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, it's definitely different now, but in many ways it's not, it's like everybody was doing that. It's like the circumstances might've been a little bit different, but still. So, that was an interesting bit.
Yeah, and earlier drafts of the movie, because this was like, I don't know, 10 or so drafts, to make a movie. It's not like we just like wrote it. They were a male and female character, and then our casting director was reading for so many of the characters, bouncing off when we were doing casting, and she was doing it so much better than the people that read. We were like, why don't you read for this character? And then it just got written for her, and then it kind of became that, and then it created a better narrative and, what we were aiming for anyway. So it all just kind of worked out in a good way.
Yeah, right.
But then we always had that element of queerness too, because Jasper's character was originally meant to be this sort of, like, she was going to be sexualized in a way that she pushed against, in a way that was sort of like, I am not a sexual person, and that's my queer identity, that's my self-expression. And we have a lot of that in the movie that we ended up tying into the relationship between her and Hannah. So in a way, it just kind of created a much richer story to extend one's own exploration of their identity to a partner. Or to somebody to mirror.
Yeah, right on, man. Benny, what do you think about all that?
Don't do that to me, please. I tried to interject a few times, but there was just a lot going on. So now I'm sort of backtracking. So please forgive me if I'm a bit ramshackle here. But I would say that, like, immediately I found the story to be extremely relatable. I found the characters to be extremely relatable. That was more or less, you know, like what they're doing through the entire movie is more or less what I was doing at that same time, and to some extent probably still am doing, to be honest.
Same, yeah.
I found I totally related to Nick, because I definitely around the same time in my life, two of my friends ended up becoming involved, you know, in a hetero relationship, but they ended up becoming involved. So I was sort of like in that third wheel position.
Yeah.
You know?
Were you hammered all the time?
We were, you know, stoned all the time. Definitely, we were smoking resin. You know.
Yeah, at that age, it's sometimes all you can.
That's what it was like back in the '90s, boys.
That's what it's like in the 2000s.
It's encumbered in resin.
Yeah, it's more of a resin comedy than a weed comedy, since we couldn't afford any weed for the budget.
There you go. That's a good transition into high level. I think it would be worth just kind of giving our high level views here, like we do traditionally with the other movies that we look at. Yeah, for me, I got a pretty strong Clerks vibe on this, and there was kind of a splash of Tarantino-esque dialogue. So I definitely kind of appreciated the indie kind of guerrilla filmmaking thing that reminded me a lot of, you know, Kevin Smith's debut. And I kind of think at the highest level for me, it's just interesting to see those types of ideas and that kind of approach through the lens of a new generation of filmmakers. So it was interesting just to kind of experience that as like the old curmudgeon now. So I enjoyed checking it out. Thank
you, man. Yeah, for I guess we still do refer to it as the gay Gen Z Clerks.
There you go.
And
okay.
Some people I think we had a meeting with somebody, and I think that was one of the first things that they said, and that just kind of resonated real hard.
Yeah.
Well, it's a compliment to you too. I mean,
yeah, it was lovely.
Clerks was massive. It was a massive out of nowhere made for $5 hit. You know.
Yeah, there was nothing really like it before that, like commercially anyway.
Yeah. Ben, do you want to go? You want to go next, or you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Chad hit it. We talked for a bit about it the other night, and I could definitely see the Clerks vibes there. Benny had said that it had like some kind of cartoon influences that I was also feeling when he said that. And then for me in particular, just like the little noises and the sound effects and all that stuff gave me a very intense Parker Lewis Can't Lose vibe, which was a show that ran back in the mid to late 90s, kind of a high school, you know, kind of thing. And it had a really interesting style to it that I really liked. And I saw a lot of that in there, whether that was intentional or not. But, you know, again, like I think, like what Chad said, I was just looking back at, like, you know, yeah, that's what it was like. I remember that. You know what I mean? It was the same exact thing. Like I said before, the sexual orientation, it really didn't even register with me. I was not looking at the characters that way. I was just looking at the characters themselves. You know, it's like everybody knew a Jasper. You know what I mean? And, you know, and like I think you could kind of identify with everybody in the group. I never got the feeling that Nick was just a blowout who was drinking all the time. He kind of seems like he was sort of on his way up out of off the shit heap almost more than the other two. So I wasn't really feeling like he was just drunk all the time. He definitely got drunk. That's for damn sure, a couple times, but he was always seemed like he was trying to elevate, which I dig, you know, because I remember being there too. I remember watching other people do it, you know. I remember the Hannahs, you know. I remember all of them. So that's how
I feel like that was kind of a defense mechanism too, type thing of like reverting to your old self when you're with your old friends, you know, because it's like sometimes I'll hang out with certain people from my past. And it's like, oh, let's get into the same old trappings that we used to. And then you're older and it's like, is this really like fun
I don't
anymore.
drink.
Yeah, exactly, man.
I have a kid. 2 beers is enough.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like that. I don't know. That was pretty much my my highbrow on this one.
What's your high level, Benny?
Yeah, lay it down, Ben.
I will definitely echo the Clerks and Parker Lewis Can't Lose vibes. I definitely picked up on, I mean, I don't know whether this is true or not, but I picked up on the vibes of like very cartoony, sort of goofy, fun humor going on. Some of the way it was edited and cut reminded me of cartoons, and I was trying to rack my brain and think of what it was. And for whatever reason, what popped into my head was like, I don't know, earlier Cartoon Network stuff like Dexter's Lab or Powerpuff Girls or like Johnny Bravo.
Yeah.
Albeit like, encumbered in resin and, beer soaked, as it were.
Hey, baby, you got a smoke?
We, from the very beginning, wanted this thing to be like a live action cartoon. We dressed them vibrantly. We oversaturated the images. We made it. Made
colors
sure
were bright,
or just fucking covered in green or whatever we had.
The soundtrack was ridiculous.
It was, yeah. The soundtrack was very cartoony.
For like 3 drafts of the entire movie, there was so many radio DJ jokes. Just nothing but like boing. You know? And
it was a bit much.
it was so stupid.
It might have been a mistake to take some out.
No, I was feeling that, man. I got a special distaste for radio DJs in my heart. I was a radio DJ, so for a little bit.
I gotta say the cartoon. This sounds dumb now, but the cartoon influences totally flew over my head. Like, I was very confused about some of the sounds and some of the shots. I was just like, what is going on? And now that Benny brought that to my attention and then you guys are talking about it, it makes so much more sense. And I suppose, like, I just never expected cartoons to influence filmmaking, I guess, because like,
yeah,
it's only now that the creators are coming up from the generation that, like us, that were raised on cartoons, or at least raised on modern cartoons. So it's super interesting to kind of put 2 and 2 together. It seems so obvious now that it's being discussed, but it definitely makes way more sense now.
It's interesting though. I've never heard anybody talk about that before. That it's kind of like we are an influence of sort of those like ADD cartoons that were coming out like in '99 and all the way to like 2010. Like, yeah, that definitely has some deep roots in this. It was like in my head, it was just like that's a cartoon, not that is a cartoon of a specific time. I love that. That's cool as hell.
Mm.
Well, yeah, Ed and Eddy is very like ADD like that, and that was something that kind of came up in conversation a lot for this.
Right.
Just like the soundtrack to like early 2000 SpongeBob stuff was like a lot of the stuff, So I don't know. We both have a very like broad scope in terms of humor we like. Like Superbad is obviously one of our favorite comedies, but just in general, like a lot of slapstick stuff and humor is something we always try to like write into anything comedic we do. So
sure.
Yeah, it's also like, I don't know, fun, and you don't see too much. Like there hasn't been too many straight comedies that have come out since like The Hangover, like blockbuster ones. Not like this is a blockbuster, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed.
I always thought as long as the laughter outweighs the offensiveness, it's fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think we touched that rim a little bit in Pretenders. I think we were on the fence. I was specifically on the fence about that 9/11 joke. That was a pretty good one, but we had a backup shot. We had a backup take, a couple backup takes filmed, a couple different improv ones, but that was the hardest hitting one, and that was because Adam threw it out there during an improv take, And then the worker of the store, the one who was there watching us, laughed at it. Nobody else laughed but her. And we knew that if somebody who has no fucking clue what's going on laughs at that joke, that's going to make anybody and everybody laugh.
Wow, that's bold, man. I was not expecting that. I didn't really know how to react to that one. I was like,
What was the joke again? I don't even remember.
yeah, refresh us our memories. What was the context?
So Adam was talking shit to Jasper and Hannah, and Nick was up there kind of a little cowering in the background, and Jasper goes, yeah, because they knew each other from high school. Jasper goes, yeah, well, at least we were memorable. And then it cuts to Adam's close up, and he goes, yeah, well, so was 9/11. So
holy shit, that's right. Well, that was another. I'm gonna steal a small segue here because I did two tours of duty as a convenience store worker at 2 different mobile stations, 3 actually.
When you said tours of duty, and then followed it up with convenience store.
What? Yeah, no, I did. I had 2 tours of duty, man.
Are you lampooning us right now? It sounds like
we got lampooned.
No, I'm not. I did 2 tours of duty at 2 different mobile stations in 2 different towns, and I highly identify with that. And it took me a minute because Adam and I, even though we talked on the phone a couple of times, I had never met him in person. I'd seen a couple of pictures of him, and when he came on screen, I was like, oh, that guy looks familiar to me, and I was like, I think that's Adam. And of course it was. And I fully identified with the convenience store part. Very, very much.
We gave him I think he had 3 hairstyles. He had a mullet, a rat tail, and what was the other one?
My trashy mustache.
Yeah, I guess it was the mustache.
Finally slightly less trashy, but yeah, it really fit the aesthetic.
That was good, man.
Well, I don't know how many of our episodes you've listened to, but we do have the steak and mustaches segment quite often. So
that's true.
I would be proud to include your stash in a steak and mustaches segment if you'd like.
Ooh,
please! I might be shaving it off soon. I think it's cost me a couple auditions recently.
So you did you have the stash in the movie? I cannot remember now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's so faint that it's tough to tell.
No. It wasn't that faint, man.
It was so crusty, bro.
Okay. Crusty what? Crusty like Sam Elliott crusty or crusty another way?
Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott has the stash of stashes.
Yeah, that guy's lit. He's ready to go.
Sam Elliott's stash has a stash.
Tristan, is Sam Elliott hep?
Is he hep? Yeah, like hepatitis or
What was that? Where did that whole thing come from? Was that you guys just making fun of people saying stupid shit like that?
Yeah, no, yeah. I think most of my jokes come from a very condescending manner. I don't know. I feel like I hear people say I went to an art school for 4 years. I heard people say stupid shit every day, and I'm sure hep was one of the things I heard at a Starbucks at 7 a.m. one time.
That is super annoying. I was glad you made fun of it.
I hope it becomes an earworm, dude, where all the cool kids keep saying it.
But that's always the way with that kind of shit. You'll start saying things ironically, and then they turn into what you say normally, and all of a sudden you're the facade that you were trying to take the piss out of. I find that I used to say like bro all the time, ironically, and now it's no longer ironic, and I'm a complete jackass about it. And I think it's sad and funny at the same time.
Now you're that guy.
I feel like I can't stop saying it since I moved to Queens. It's like every fucking third word out of my mouth.
Is what, hep?
Bro.
Oh, God, yeah.
Hep. No, I don't know. We threw hep in there to get you that earwormy kind of thing. It's memorable because it's so fucking stupid. I don't know. We had a couple different little earwormy parts that we wanted to kind of hook people with.
Well, it's like when you're writing something, it's hard to tell what's going to stick, and it's like Napoleon Dynamite. Every like I had a book when I was a kid of quotes from that movie, and it was a big ass book because there's just so many quotable things, and it's like, you can't know that you're writing that. I mean, you can hope, but I don't know. It's just interesting, like comedies like that and Dodgeball, where like people can just quote them all the time, or like Naked Gun. it's just I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yeah, totally. It must be weird writing it, not knowing whether it is or isn't quotable. Not that that's the thing you're going for, but it must be it's kind of like, sounds, Benny, you'd probably be able to speak to this a bit, but like, imagine how surreal it would be for a musician to get up on stage and then like have someone singing your song back to you. It'd just be the fucking weirdest thing in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds a lot like that.
There was definitely a level of intention there though with some of those quotes, like I don't know, the one that I can think of right now is the, like, this isn't weed, this is resin, and I just found the reservoir. Like, I don't know, there's a certain timbre that, like, I think our actors hit with each other, that it kind of just, it sinks its teeth into your brain sometimes.
I think it comes down to like actors too, like their delivery, which is like an interesting thing you discover, because like a lot of the people, like the main three that we cast were actors that we knew, but like a lot of them were like family and friends. So it's like, oh, are we going to pull this off? You know, it was, except for like Charlie, like we didn't know him and he was one of like well, we kind of did, but like he was one of the bigger actors that we got. And he really took things off the page.
Dude, he was the most 90s dude ever. I loved him.
He did really great. He was one of my favorites.
He was so fun to work with, bro. That guy was the man.
Yeah, he had like a Matthew McConaughey, Danny McBride vibe, and it was just really fun.
Total Danny McBride vibe, dude. Yeah.
Totally.
Total Danny McBride. I was thinking Danny McBride, a little Rob Wells from Trailer Park Boys, a little, what's that guy from the Dan Band there in the Starsky and Hutch? Oh, I can't remember his name. Yeah, he was really funny.
Yeah, he was, I don't know, the amount of crowd favorites. He was a big crowd favorite when we were doing some festival stuff. Lots of stuff written about him to us. It was kind of neat.
How much of this was improv versus scripted versus kind of storyboard? Like, I suppose from a dialogue and kind of scene point of view, improv versus scripted, and then from a like creative point of view, storyboarded versus just like run and gun shots.
When you only have $20,000 and you need reshoots, you're like, well, fuck, how are we going to get reshoots? So, a lot of the times if there were things that we were missing, like a montage beat or something, we could treat those as a little bit more guerrilla. But I think because we were shooting so many pages a day, we didn't have a lot of room for improv. We kind of had to stick to the beats. And if some beats didn't work, this is, a group project. Anybody can throw anything at me and we're going to hear it out. And we're going to, let that be delivered. And I don't know, 9 times out of 10, if you work with funny people, they're going to come up with something good. Like, oh, this line kind of is weird. Can I say this instead? I don't know. Like the scenes with Adam, like, kind of were a really good example of that.
Well, like the convenience store scene, for example, where it's like the Moby Dick thing, and they're all kind of like, they all meet each other. That was like, I mean, most days were 18-hour shoot days. They were absurd. But that day we had like 31 shots we were supposed to get, and I think we got like 20. We had to like really pare it down because we only had so much time in that convenience store. But my father-in-law is the guy that plays the clerk behind the counter.
Oh, right.
Oh, he was great, man. I loved him.
He's the man.
So talk a bit about the budget, because I think that was another thing that we touched on very, very briefly the other day, and I have to say that your budget being as low as it was is even more, makes the movie even more endearing.
I guess I specifically have a background in doing like low to no budget stuff. There's just a lot of like guerrilla DIY run and gun lessons you learn when you have to set off fireworks in the middle of the woods at 3 a.m. and then get the fuck out before cops show up. Like there's I don't know, there's a certain level of like just kind of fuck around and find out that I like about Pretenders. That being said, I never want to make a movie like that ever again. Not because it was like a bad time making it, but because I think that I feel weird calling it a format, but I'm going to call it a format anyway. I think the format of Pretenders and the way it was shot, sort of the energy of it, is limiting in the type of story you can tell and the type of audiences you can reach.
How so? What do you mean by the
Why?
format?
Yeah, why?
I just think that there's a certain level of like indie filmmaking that this like it fills a niche in indie filmmaking that is adjacent, I think, to like the tiny furnitures of the mumblecore world. You know what I mean?
That worked well for her, man.
I don't buy any of the Leenum Dunham story.
No, that's a cul-de-sac for another time.
Yeah, I think so. But like those just aren't for everybody, despite them having, you know, like a well-rounded, like they have their merits. They're made with well intentions. They're new. They're fresh. They're not like things you've seen before, but that also is a deterrent.
And you like it's limited to like, you know, you got these blockbuster comedies, like you say, and they have a star, and they have this and that, and that's the reason a lot of movies sell, is because they have a star.
A star.
They have that look, you know, like the polish, which we did as best we could, you know, with favors pulled, Tristen's editing abilities and stuff like that, because he edited the whole thing as well. You know, it's like, for instance, little things that you don't think about until you're making a movie. Like people are like, oh, like how did you do it? It's like there's so many nuanced things. Like if we wanted to have a scene with a gun, it would just be like such a hassle, and such like just the expenses of having like the security and cops, like just things that like all have an expense for like that one thing. Or if we wanted to shoot at this type of location, it's like, well, that costs money. It's like we really finagled, and our producer James really worked that budget to the bone to make sure like everything we were doing we could pull off, which, you know, in and of itself, like shooting in the carnival that we did, we just kind of, that was a little more guerrilla than anything else, but like it's because they kind of like allowed us, and we got permission from the mayor, and it was just like some weird shit.
I think we bribed half of Maine to make this movie.
That was Maine?
Yeah, half of the thing was Maine, yeah.
I think one thing that I did like, I mean, there's a lot of things I liked, but one of the things I liked was I like non-specific locales. So I like when it gives me the feeling that I could be anywhere from the Jersey boardwalk all the way up to, you know, Maine. Like you really, it could have been anywhere from Jersey all the way up the coast of New England. You know what I mean? And I like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was New York. I was like, well, is it New York? Well, it could be. Maybe they're going into Jersey Shore, and it was like kind of non-specific. And then the Rotary, and you know, I was like, well, you know. So I don't know. I dig that. I like it because it makes you not focus on that. You know, like sometimes I think you get too hung up on where something is in a film, or maybe that's just me. Who the fuck?
No, I do too. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that kind of goes to play with like the characters being like, you know, just people you'd know. Like it doesn't matter what their identities are. It's like it doesn't matter where this place is. It just gives you that fuzzy feeling.
Yes. There you go.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the generational stuff? Just because for me, being an old fuck now, officially, it's on my like license just as old fuck. I resonated with Charlie a bit, you know, where I feel like you guys are probably more aligned with the Jaspers and Hannahs and Nicks of the world in terms of like, you know, you guys are on the film circuit now and kind of getting some traction and kind of things are looking up. Whereas like us three are old curmudgeons that are like looking back wistfully on our youth. And I'm just curious about like the generational aspect of the movie. And I think there's an interesting angle there.
Yeah, I always wanted, like, even in their costumes, I wanted to double Jasper and Charlie the entire time. They dress the same, they act the same, they have the same jewelry, like they're covered in like they were always meant to sort of double each other. And I think there's, I don't know, I guess because I'm the one who wrote it, there's a bit of me in all of this, and in Charlie's character, it's just like, I don't know. It was always, I kind of viewed him as like driven by fear, and more so not some guy that's old, but some guy that has aged because he's been afraid the whole time. And then you have somebody like Jasper who is making the same poor decisions, but not out of fear of, you know, I guess out of fear of like settling and in fear of growing up. So I don't know. It wasn't ever supposed to be commentary on actual age and generation, as opposed to what certain circumstances, how they can age you and turn you from one thing into the other, and where you can go.
Sure. And fear in the sense of like not taking a swing, or what kind of fear do you mean?
Like maturity, I think. Like
not wanting to be mature or being afraid to be mature?
there's like a little bit of that in it. Like if you're, what does it mean to be an adult? Like if you finally grow up, like we're letting go of so many different things. And I think that drives Jasper to, kind of throw away her own self to pretend to be somebody else, and disregard the people that really love her and sort of take them for granted. And then you have Charlie, and his entire fear is just, I mean, like, look at him. Like, he just wants to be famous. He's got this really incredibly naive dream that is something he should have matured out of at this point, but he just refuses to. And that's, what's going to happen to you if, you kind of can't accept who you are in a way.
It's definitely the vibe I got, man, for sure. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. What about you? Like as somebody who is, older than I am, of a different generation, this connects to you on that level where Charlie is what Jasper is to somebody of my generation.
For me, I think like the one thing that really connected with me, and I'm curious to hear what Kev and Benny think, like, was the diner scene towards the end where they were like, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it was something along the lines of like, I wonder where my life is going to go. And from the position of a 21-ish, 2-ish sophomore in college or whatever, or no, they finished college, so 23-ish, 4-ish, I guess, you don't really have a fucking clue where your life's going to go. Because if I think back to when I was 23, my life is so fucking different to what I expected. Even if it's not different in a lot of other ways, it's just different than what you expect or kind of what you think. And
you have expectations to mature when you're that age too, that are just, they feel so much heavier than they actually are.
That too, I guess. I guess just to finish my thought, like, I guess the one thing that I can say definitively is like, I was so mistaken about what I thought it was going to be like. Mm-hmm. Kind of like if you're like, oh, I'm going to go to this place I've never been to before, and you have this image in your mind, or you're going to meet this person that you've never met face to face but have like talked to before, and like the image you have in your mind is so different than the reality that like I feel like looking back on my life from the age of 24 to now, my assumptions at the age of 24 were so fucking wrong.
Wow.
That like it's kind of pointless to even like pretend like I had any idea what was going to happen.
Huh.
And I kind of really resonated with that because like you don't have a fucking clue where it's going to go, and I kind of like that I didn't have a clue in a way, but I'm just kind of curious if it resonated similarly for Benny or Kev and their thoughts on that.
I've never had a clue about how things are. I still don't have a clue about how things are going to turn out for me.
Yeah.
I think if I've learned anything from life, is that nothing ever turns out the way, and anything you're about to encounter never exactly turns out the way you're expecting it's going to.
Yeah.
If it does, I think it's kind of an indication that like something fucking weird is going on. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, personally, I still relate to my younger self, so I'm very connected through time, and like everything that person did in his 20s, that me in my 20s did has got me to where I am today, whether it was what I anticipated back then or not. So
you guys don't come across as, like, when you say my 20s, it wasn't until all three of you told us your age that I was like, oh, really? Like, I don't know. There's something very youthful about the three of you. So I hope that like helps you feel good. No, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just because like we kind of relate on that artistic level or something like that. But sometimes I feel like art transcends, age and things like that. Like we can, like, even like, we're gonna be talking about Texas Chainsaw after this, and it's like, even though that movie's from, I believe, the 70s, it's like things hold up, and it's like it doesn't really matter how old you are. I feel like you feel a certain way. I don't know. I thought it was interesting to hear your perspectives on that in terms of like looking back on things, because we've tested this movie before it went to the festival with like different cuts with like older generations too. And we were like, this might not play. And they did. And we were like, oh, it's interesting that they're like that perspective. You know, you make something for so long. We've been working on this for 3 years, and you get like a little bit like, I don't know, like in a fog, right, Tristen? And
yeah, you can't see it. You get too close to it and you can't see it.
I think the people that like this movie the most, or that this movie resonates with the most, are the people that have at one point or every day possibly thought it doesn't have to be that serious. Like we don't have to know who we are now. We don't have to, like, it's okay to be present. It's like, what are we going to do now that's going to predict the future? Like, we can do our best, but that's all we can do.
Yeah, I mean, well, it kind of sucks going last because there's so many things everybody said.
Now you know how I feel, Kev.
I mean, I'll just start with the ones that jump. I'll do the things that kind of jumped out at me the most. So, like, first I thought,
don't you dare fucking repeat us.
No.
Hey, Kev, did you have anything to say about this?
Firstly, I didn't think about maturity as a concept when I was that young. Like, that didn't register in any way. And when I was younger, I mean, I think being an artist or of a creative nature, I had that very, like, float on the breeze kind of mentality that I think, you know, somewhat what Ben was saying, somewhat. And I didn't think much about where things were going. This latter part of my life has been very different, with a lot of structure and forced structure and forcing me to do and learn things in a different way, which is almost the same as creativity, because you're at your most creative when you're forced to be creative. When you're backed into a corner, your mind gets incredibly creative, and that really resonates to all situations. So I've had to force myself to learn and do different things. So I definitely think about maturity now in a different way, or I think about it at all. But kind of like what Ben said, I think, you know, like, in many ways, things don't ever go as you intend them to do. You can get them close, I think, but I think the real key is being able to work with the bits that you didn't predict and however you wanted it to go. And if you can spin that and you can work that, I don't know, that's a good thing. So I don't know if I'm either rambling or answering the question, but I don't know, just kind of going off of what you guys were saying about the movie and testing it, like, I don't know, I think this could resonate with virtually anybody because everybody was young. So you're either young and you're watching it, or you're not and you're remembering. There's something to remember there. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, I'm not gay. Well, so what? I was young. You know, like, okay, well, I'm not young, but I was smoking a ton of weed or drinking or doing X drug or whatever. Or I was, you know, a shithead and I was lying to people all the time, or, you know, I wasn't taking my life seriously, or I was, you know, sponging off other people. There's so many things you can resonate with in this film.
Resonate.
Hey.
Did I just do that?
You did.
You know what? I feel like an inverse death, because you all said that, and now I feel like you should all die, and I think that's what I'm going to do.
Oh no!
So anyway, just wanted to wrap up my thought, man. So I think it. What I was trying to say when the resonate thing made it fall apart was that the movie really can and probably does resonate with anybody, man. You know what I mean? So you can watch this. I could see you, my younger self, watching this and being like, ha ha, I'm like, totally, yeah, blah, you know, whatever. And then, you know, it's almost nostalgic watching it at this point, because it's like you're really taking a trip down memory lane and you're remembering your old self and your experiences and the way you were, you know.
Wistful.
Songs that made the hit parade.
There you go.
Archie!
So I think that's I think that's my thought about all that.
I like it.
How was it more of a rose tinted glasses way or more of a God I'm pissed way?
Neither. No, it was
kind of a wearing a giant green flashy glasses kind of way.
Oh yeah,
Green
totally.
fleshy glasses.
Flashy glasses.
Not fleshy.
They were fleshy too. For me, it wasn't rose-colored glasses. I think for me, it was that scene that started this whole kind of chunk of the conversation where, you know, it's like, where does your life go? And I remember like at least 2 to 3 times in my life being like, the best times are behind me. And each time I was just like, you know, this is it. It's not going to get any better. Like the glory days are over. And each time I was wrong. And I kind of wanted to kind of just like jump into the scene and be like, it'll be cool, guys. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Totally.
I love that.
Huh. That gave me chills, man. That gave me chills, you saying that.
Yeah, man.
It's a scary thing when you think the best times are behind you, but it's such a
is.
great thing to be proven wrong, you know?
It is.
Yeah.
I think I never had that thought. I remember when I got to my 30s and I was like, wow, I was like shit is like I never worried about it, and then things just got better. There were certain things that just got better, and I just focused on that. I did on my 40s. So like I don't know, I never had that kind of a experience, but yeah, I don't know. Take that for what it is.
Yeah, man. You stick around for long enough, some cool shit falls in your lap, you know?
That's it.
One of the earlier reviews I got when we were sending out like one of the drafts of the screeners for like tests. It was from one of my friend's gay younger brothers who said he remembers vividly scamming old men on beach vacations. and that felt so good to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it is kind of neat the way that it sort of resonates with different people, the way it kind of hits different sorts of people's brains. There's not one demographic. Like it's so there's a scatter plot of people who love this movie. It doesn't seem to really fit one lane so far. It's kind of awesome.
Have you guys shown it outside? Like, I'm not familiar with where you were in the film festival circuit. Has it been shown outside of New England? I wonder if that's a common thread.
Yeah, we showed it in New York, and then we had a digital screening at CineQuest, which is based in San Jose.
Okay, so how did the California guys do?
We won Best Comedy there.
Fucking sweet.
Yeah, we won like the top award there.
That's
It's
awesome.
crazy. It was the first one that we got into, and they fucking treated us the best. It was so wonderful the whole time.
Yeah, like for people who don't know about like filmmaking, it's like very, I don't know, daunting to try to get into a film festival, but
Definitely.
to like win one, it was like, wow, it just felt good, you know.
Nobody ever tells you good job. You know,
No.
like that was so. It was like surreal. It was crazy, and then you get humbled because then you don't get selected for like 10 other film festivals, and you're like, "What's going on?" And then you get into another one, and you're like, "Well, okay." And then you don't get into 5 more, and then you get into another one. It's very strange, dude. The film festival world the odds are not in your favor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I suppose that's another element of my appreciation for this film is just the fact that it was made. Just that, like, it seems like such a pain in the dick to make a movie. So it's like fucking high fives for getting it done as well. Like, I don't know. Even if it were like the worst movie ever, which it isn't, I think just the fact that you got it done is fucking amazing on its own. And then it turns out to be quite good. And then it turns out to be like really interesting influences. And then it turns out to connect with a scatter plot of people. And then you take it to a film festival and it does well. Like, it just, there's layers of fucking greatness there. But just like high fives for getting the fucker done in the first place. I can't believe the 3-year thing that you were saying earlier. That's wild.
Yeah, for real.
Thank you.
Yeah, bro, it's been a minute. Yeah, thank you. It's it's the greatest thing in the entire world. It sucks. It really is like the hardest thing, but it's so much fun to be hands-on and to just be constantly communicating with people to get the thing done. Like, it's just nonstop problem solving, and it's so gratifying to see the image when, you know, everything's set up.
There's so many moving parts that people don't think about.
There was one night where Libby, our lead, who plays Jasper, she well, first of all, she started the day by drinking a beer, which was very on brand for her character. I think she was being pretty method. And then later that night after the shoot, we go for a walk. Or no, she's on the beach and she's away, and we're all partying back at the house. And she comes back and she's fucking freaking out. She's like, "Guys, I just found a witch. We're in Maine. It's fucking like June, so it's still a little. I guess June's not that early. We're like, what are you talking about?" And so we go to her at 2 a.m. We walk down the beach. It's fucking dark over there in Saco. There's no lights right by the shore, and she's leading us through the dark. And there's this house. It looks like it could be from like a Cartoon Network Halloween movie or something. Like, it is like some Tim Burton type shit. And like the light, it's the only light on in for miles. And Libby takes us in. She's like, "Guys, this is Midge," and it's this 4 foot tall, thick New England accent lady. Turns out this lady owns this property, and she's there like once a week, a year. And she just opens it as a store only at night and then closes it and leaves for the day. It's wild. She's like a local legend out there. Her name, I believe, is Midge.
That's amazing, and totally segues us into Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. Very nice.
It's just the terrifying ordeals of strangers in the dark.
Yeah, didn't learn that lesson, man. I love it. So shall we transition to Chainsaw?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so is this your first time? I mean, I know some of you guys said you saw Texas Chainsaw before. This is my second time seeing it.
Yeah, I think it's my second. I think I watched it. It would be easily 20 years since I watched it, though. So
Zero question, this was my first viewing.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've seen parts of it before, and then today was the first like real full sit down all the way through.
It was a lot less. It was a lot less psychedelic than I remember it being.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I kind of my memory of it from like pretty much legit 20 years ago is like, I think I combined it with Nothing But Trouble, the Chevy Chase movie, because like
That's easy to do.
it is, and I definitely you can see how Nothing But Trouble definitely cribs from this, like no doubt, but. I suppose, like, I always thought it was very, like, the house was a house of horrors, and it was, like, underground, and there were tunnels, and, like, the chick is fucking running away from, you know, like, all kinds of weird stuff.
That sounds like you saw the second one. That sounds like the second one.
I've never seen any of the other ones, though, so I don't know.
The second one is crazy psychedelic, dude. It's borderline a comedy.
Okay.
It's so colorful and so flash. It's the trippiest sequel of all time.
Maybe I have seen
Isn't
it.
the acting like super over the top too?
Yeah, I mean everything's crazy. Like they take over a radio station. The family takes over a radio station, and like the cop. There's a cop hero character that comes in and like chainsaw fights Leatherface at the end.
That sounds
It's
amazing.
Yeah, no, it's like they took all the psychedelic spectacle from the first one and just fucking hammered it home on the second one.
Yeah, right.
When you said it's almost like borderline a comedy, I was going to say almost the same thing about this one. Like if you just change out the like creepy synth, you know, soundtrack for like Benny Hill, like comedy music, like
Yeah, right on.
you know, like you know, like
Yes, you could totally do that.
Adam and I were watching it yesterday, and we deduced that it's just Home Alone from the other perspective.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. He's just trying to say, "Get the fuck out of my house."
I love it.
I mean, really, a bunch of intruders go into this guy's house,
Yeah.
like, as if it's okay. They just walk in, and he's defending himself, you know?
It's Texas in the 70s. That guy could have gotten shot, and that would have been a true story.
And nobody might have heard about it for months and months and months.
I love it.
Mhm.
He was just dressing up in other people's skin, trying to prepare his meals for the week.
Exactly, right?
Just a normal guy.
Yeah, pre-cooking for the week. The Texas Chainsaw style.
Benny and Kev, if this is like the first time you've seen it all the way through, what were your high level on this? What do you think?
I think my Benny Hill comment kind of sums it up. I when it comes to horror movies, I tend to gravitate more towards like supernatural, like cosmic horror kind of stuff. So like this was like more like in the I mean it's way classier in some ways, but it kind of falls more into like the Jason, Friday the 13th, Freddy Kreuger kind of avenue. Slasher stuff. But I don't know. I had a blast, man. Despite the fact that I was watching it on my phone because my internet is down and there's like 1 million people on Nantucket right now. So it was spotty and on and off and on and off. And like I barely managed to get through it. But I had a blast watching it, actually.
Yeah.
I just came away with this. Jerry! Jerry!
That's awesome.
The fact that the last 35 minutes of this movie is just that fucking girl screaming. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I like the movie's definitely terrifying, but I can't help but just think, just shut the fuck up. It's been 40 minutes. It's wild. She runs to the house, and then she runs away from the house, and then she runs back to the house, and then she runs to the gas. It's like they repeat the same scene twice. It's like they just flip the footage horizontally.
Yeah.
And it's just an extra 10 minutes.
She did a good job, man.
But
You gotta get like it was annoying and loud and stuff, but man, she sold the hell out of it.
Right. So I think for my high level, like I was sucked in immediately, and I'm not a big horror fan. Like I was really into horror movies when I was a kid. I wanted to be a makeup artist for a number of years when I was younger. I used to read Fangoria magazine religiously. I was huge into the Friday the 13th, huge into the Freddy movies. That being said, I still never saw this movie. And I kind of just stopped caring about horror movies. I think I saw Paranormal Activity a couple of years ago, and I was like, I legitimately just scared the shit out of me. I was like, wow. This movie was absolutely excellent. I loved every single minute of it. It's a really well done movie for a low budget film, man, for $140,000. It was definitely creepy. It was definitely scary. I like when horror movies take place during the day. I like being freaked out during the day. Like, because the day always represents safety in a horror movie, and it's always like at nighttime that like horrible things happen, but it's cool to bring that into the daytime and scare people during the day. And it really worked well the way that it was shot. It gave that Texas setting that like hot, sort of blown out kind of feel to it, being out in the middle of West Texas, man, like you could really feel that and being out in the middle of nowhere and everything being so damn dry and all of that. And, knock, knock, knock. And I got you now, so this is one of those horror movies where it's not really that far outside the realm of possibility that something like this could happen. If in fact it is based on a true story, I couldn't tell if that was just fluff for the film or if that was real. But at any rate, I enjoyed every minute of this. I thought it was fantastic, man. And it was great to see one of the original horror sort of iconic horror movies that people have, so many movies have tried to copy, you know what I mean, or have borrowed from, and to see the original and see how singular his vision was and see how great it turned out, man. Like, this is a great freaky movie.
Whoever was that producer definitely nailed it and fucking murdered that entire cast and crew.
Right.
I think those performances are like you say, like they all nail it. I mean, not they all nail it, but she nails it. And I think it's a byproduct of the fact that it was, like you said, hot and dry and miserable, and the days are long. And like I was saying earlier, when you're stuck in a blacked out room when it's sunny out, and especially if you can't turn on the air conditioner or even back then, just like a fan because of the sound, like that was like a static air room in the middle of a hot summer Texas day. Like,
Oh, with the props
the
and shit,
smell, like it's just bad. Like,
Dude, I read they were pulling in animal carcasses off of the street and from veterinarians.
Oh my God.
So the
way.
house was actually full of fucking real animal carcasses in the 100-degree heat.
These horror directors,
ugh.
they it's like between Alfred Hitchcock, like what he did to his actresses, and like the Blair Witch, like how they tortured those actors, like god damn.
Yeah. So how did you guys approach this one? Like what was the first time you saw this, or how did you end up picking this one?
Yeah, so horror movies, they fuck me up, man. I don't know what it is, but like just in general, I always get so deeply affected by them. And you know, it's like you said about these original horror movies. Like I was like, okay, I haven't seen Texas Chainsaw before. Last year, I had like a horror mania to try to get it out of my system and watch probably like what you would consider great horror movies. And so I was like, oh, you know, I'll watch Texas Chainsaw. My friend saw it, he was like, you have to see this. I was like, all right. I put it on, and it's like you said, you see like an older movie, and it's like, well, it's dated. Who knows? I had to pause it like 9 times because I was so profoundly disturbed by this movie. I mean, it made my skin crawl. I loved it though, because like I've been fearful for a movie like Paranormal Activity, that like it was like sleepless nights from that movie, because like demon movies, you know, it's like that, you know, whatever. But there was something about like just the fucking set and like the setting and like it didn't seem like there was any actors in this movie. It seemed like they found these real fucking people. Like there's that one moment. It's one of the best moments in cinematic history for me. And I know like I'm talking about Texas Chainsaw, but when the fucking dad at the end of the movie gets her in the bag and he fucking throws her in the truck and he goes to drive off and he looks and he walks back to the store and he shuts off the light and he gets back in the car and he says the cost of electricity is crazy. It'll run a man out of business. Dude, that fucking blew my mind. I thought the actor made a mistake and they kept doing like, oh, I was supposed to shut the light off. And then I was like, oh, this guy is purely crazy. I was like, it was just such a brilliant performance. And yeah, man, I've never been affected by a horror movie like this before.
I don't know. I think I first saw this movie in college, and I try to watch it once, like every year for, you know, I do like a horror movie marathon in October. And no, I love this movie purely because its texture is unmatched. Like, I don't really watch it for the plot. I think all the dialogue scenes are atrocious. I think the cool shit where the guy cuts his hand in the van is sick though, because it's just it's just a slow burn. But like just the spectacle of it, the texture of it, the way that you can feel the heat and smell the smells, and like I ate Taco Bell last night watching this thing, and boy, what a mistake that was.
Ooh, man.
I don't think.
Damn.
I don't know, man. Like that's the most popular movie in the world that is such a just feeler for gruesomeness.
It's visceral, yeah.
That being said, I think the best shot in the entire movie is that sweet butt shot from underneath the swing when she gets up to the girl in the red shorts, when she's sitting out front of the house and she gets off the swing and walks to the door. I say that as a joke, but at the same time, the composition is incredible. The camera move is like the best move in the whole movie. It like you see the house, you see the sky's so blue with her bright red shorts, and like you can only see like her skin, so like her skin kind of is like orange with the sky, and then the greens of the grass, and like there's sunflowers too. It is such a colorful movie. Like I don't know, man. It's like there are some times where like it puts you in the like you're watching a stuff movie or something. But there are some times certainly where it's objectively a very gorgeous frame. It's beautiful. Like at the very end when she's in the truck, and then it's a centered shot, and it's one of the few shots that's just static, and it's like it's the composition, and that's crazy, and it lets her performance go, and she starts like screaming, and then she's laughing, and then that intercuts with him with the chainsaw thrown in the air to the sunrise. Wild, dude. It's like I don't know how someone came up with that back in the early 70s. That's wild.
Yeah, true vision.
Did you see that the swing shot was ad-libbed, and they had to they're like, well, we want to do this shot, and the producer tried to cock block it, and the writer, the creators were like, we're fucking walking off the film unless we can shoot this shot, and they were like, yeah, fine, all right. Like, it was like this huge argument on set or some shit.
Oh, really?
It kind of feels like that, and I don't even mean that in way, but I mean that because there's a shot in Pretenders that is very similar that almost got cut from the movie, but it fills the same function where it's just a filler shot where we're like, it's so pretty, we just got to get it, and that was where it's the three of them in the convenience store, and they huddle, and the shot is from. Like it's pointing up underneath, at them in the huddle, and it spins back and forth. I don't know. It feels very similar in terms of it's one of the few shots that is beautiful like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I let's focus on. Let's just hang on this for a second, man, because I think visually it is very visceral, and it is there's a lot of eye candy going on, and the contrast between. The way things look like, you had scenes like that were very colorful, and then you had scenes where the light was really intense, like when they're walking and finding the generator in the house for the first time, and it's almost washed out, right? And then in the very beginning, you get that sense of like overcast, kind of gray, humid, muggy, kind of everything's a little bland, that the overcast sky can kind of make everything seem, and then the contrast between all of that stuff and then the nighttime. This is two of the notes that I had were that the night shots were true night shots, like they were almost literally just shot in the dark, and I loved that because it looked so real. And the shots at night were so dark by comparison to, the shot that Tristen mentioned and these other bits that I'm talking about. I really, really liked that in this movie. And ditto with like the sunset ending, the dusk kind of ending. And the night shots in particular were like, they were true night, man. And they were so dark, and then populated by just like a lit window or a couple of lit windows in the house, in certain scenes. And I thought it was just fantastic.
I think to speak on that and to speak on just low budget and things like that in general, totally different movies, but Star Wars.
It's a death.
And this. Oh, shit.
It's a death.
It's a death.
Yeah, you're dead.
Damn. I'm dying all over the place. I died before it started.
You got two. You got two, bro.
Yeah, well, you killed me too, so that might be three.
That's true. It's three. Yep.
It's brutal. Well, I'm already in it, so I'm just going to say.
Sally forth, man, just like we always do. Go ahead.
Well, like the Hoth scenes, George Lucas was told like not to shoot actual snow because it's going to look like shit. And he was like, no, I'm going to shoot that. Like, this is what I want. And it looks so real. And like, this looks
so good,
so real because it's like nighttime. And like, there's so much of a blowback to that with like any Hollywood big movies. And like, I don't know, that's just why I don't like, these big Marvel movies in general, because all the CGI like gets in the way of the story for me, where like the smallness and the realness and the grittiness and the fucking heart that goes into something like this, it just, you can feel it in every single frame.
Yeah, we were commenting on something similar to that a few weeks ago.
I guess before we get off the night shots, I guess it was a technical limitation where they shot this in 16 millimeter and the camera they shot on was 4 f-stops, required 4 stops more light than a normal camera. So I think that they ended up just like having it all crushed out to black because they just couldn't light it, which it worked in their favor here. Whether it was intentional or not, I don't know, but it definitely, like, the aesthetic was amazing for sure.
Agree. If it wasn't intentional, it really worked to their favor because it looked great.
Yeah, totally. And just a quick correction, Adam. George Lucas didn't direct episode 5.
Oh, he didn't. You're right.
Yeah.
It's another death.
Go fuck yourself.
That dying is a good thing.
Yeah.
That's all right. I had to mention Star
I'll be
Wars.
back.
So
It's inevitable that Star Wars is going to get mentioned in in any episode. So
We're too nerdy.
yeah, I can't help
The
myself.
way it is.
Let's go back to the opening van scene. I think the performances in that are pretty good.
Should we talk about emaciated, loony James Franco with a fucking
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what Adam said yesterday, too. He's just like a freaky James Franco.
No, my wife said that, and I didn't notice until she said it. I was like, "Holy fuck, it really is."
Oh,
it totally is.
Dude, that dude killed it. No pun intended. He fucking did a great job. The intensity of the opening, like Kev, you mentioned getting sucked in, and I feel like it's such a like crescendo of a film, but you just like, there's so much intensity to that hitchhiker pickup scene.
you don't think that anything is going to happen. I didn't think anything was going to happen. I mean, you kind of get distracted by the girl going to the grave, and like you're very inquisitive about what exactly is going to happen. You know what I mean? Especially if you're going into it with a really open mind. You know what I mean? And a blank slate. You know, like even the part where they pulled over to take a leak was like, you know, and then the dude flies down the hill. You're like, whoa, what is going on here, man? You know what I mean? So doubly so when they pick up the hitchhiker guy.
Yeah. Dude, the fucking guy falling down the hill. I'm sorry. That was that shit. That's the Benny Hill shit right there. I mean, what was the point of that?
Dude, again, he just gets fucking hammered the whole time. Like, it's relentless what they do to that character.
No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You get so thrown for a loop from this movie. That character alone really threw me for a loop. That's one of the ones where it's like, is this an actor? Because it's so... I was like, this can't be bad acting because it's... I mean, it is, but it was like, what the fuck?
The wheelchair dude or the hitchhiker?
The hitchhiker too. The wheelchair dude specifically, but that scene, they're back and forth. It was
just
like...
so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I thought that the wheelchair dude, like, he kind of bridged the gap between the Leatherface family and real life. Like, he kind of was like,
yeah.
my grandpappy used to work in the slaughterhouse, you know, and he was kind of a fucking tweaker like those dudes were in a way.
For sure.
Why would he bring them to that fucking abandoned house? Like, the murder house is a nicer house than the house that they were going to stay in.
Right?
Yeah, it was.
And they're reminiscing about, like, the wallpaper. They're like, oh, God, I remember this. And there's, like, rats chewing through it. It's like...
I don't know what they were thinking. Is that some Texas shit, or is that just insanity?
I don't know. I mean, if I had a single gripe of Kev about this movie, it would be that the proximity of Granddaddy's house and the murder house they were a little close, man. They were neighbors. I mean, like they went to the creek, and the dude was like, "Oh, there's just a path right through those two sheds that goes to the creek." You know, and they get to the creek, it's all dried out because it's like it's a dry creek, right? And then he's like, "Oh, I think I hear a generator." I mean, they weren't that far away.
Is that what do you? I don't think that's a bad thing though, or an improbable thing.
I think it's a porno. I think this is a horror porn movie where, like, the porno's like the pizza delivery guy shows up and he's like, "Oh, here's your pizza," and then it just like they start fucking.
But with murder.
Like it's like, let's go to some abandoned ass house. It's totally plausible. And then they start murdering. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a whole lot of plausibility here.
I'm here to fish in the cabin.
And
Okay, all right, fair enough. But that was my gripe. I was like,
Okay.
these houses are a little uncomfortably close. Like, you know. So.
little convenient.
She could only run so far. She was like, well, I can't run from the house to back to that murder house. Let me run to the one other location I saw.
Let's run to the gas station that is a car's drive away.
It's a barbecue for actual people.
Wild.
It's people.
Hey, I got some good barbecue, so unspecific.
Got some barbecue.
Yes, very unspecific.
That guy reminds me of, oh God, who did we say yesterday? Peter Pettigrew, the old dad. He reminds me of the fucking mouse guy from Harry Potter.
Yep.
It's crazy. He's definitely a little squirrel. Like all those guys. Adam, what did you say yesterday?
Oh yeah, we were looking at some of the like extras, like the guy that washed the fucking the van.
Dude,
like,
that dude had like a 6 head. His forehead was so big.
Yeah, dude, I said the same thing.
Dude, and I was like, I don't know if these are actors or what, but that guy seems pretty lived in, man. Like, I don't think that's makeup. I think that guy is like,
Dude,
he's seen some shit.
Lived in.
he looked like if the kid from Mask with Cher had sex with Louis C.K. Like, that dude was
Yeah.
just so fucked.
Wow, that was pretty dark, dude.
Holy
Hey,
shit.
man, it's a horror movie.
Wow.
Well, yeah, Tristan was like, I think these are just people outside of this. I was like, not that guy.
I don't know, man. I just felt like that van scene it really sets the stage. The combination of how basic the movie is from like a indie film kind of not as crazy as I remembered it being perspective, and the like shooting all these scenes inside a van would have been really cramped with the cameraman, like with an actual fucking 16mm camera. And
I wonder how they got the sound so good. Like, if they're shooting 16 at the time and they're that close in a van, you're gonna hear that camera. Like,
No
that's gonna. I wonder if that's just like on account of how many remasters there are, or if they just somehow like blimped it real well or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like those small like technical achievements are something that I think get overlooked so often. Like you said, like the lighting at night, like that. It was definitely night. They definitely had like one light that they gelled blue and were like, fucking point it that way, and then here's some flashlights, and they got away with it. And like it looks amazing. It like you can't see anything, you just hear, and then the main source of light is the flashlights, which pays off when you see, you know, Leatherface and he fucking stabs the guy through the chest in the wheelchair. Like I don't know, it's like these small achievements that they did based purely out of like, I don't know, like you said, like you have to get creative. They were forced to get creative. So like they had to come up with some bullshit to make that camera silent in the van. They had to come up with something cool so they could see, but also add to the movie, which is the flashlights. Like, I don't know. It's really cool and ingenious, and I want to learn more about how they actually pulled that off.
And then they had to
crazy.
shoot it, and then they didn't know what they shot and had to get it developed and find out if they had to fucking do it again.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, talk about generationally for these things. Like it's like we talked about with the quotable nature of comedies. You know, this guy was creating this world out of necessity. You know, someone makes art because they need to. And so this guy clearly had something he needed to say. But he had no idea how much this shit would be emulated for years to come. Everything, like, even from, like, that intro. Like, we skipped over, like, the monologue that comes up at the beginning. But that really sets the grim tone. And it's just like so many of these elements have been poorly executed afterwards, just as like a hack copy. And it's crazy. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, that intro was totally like War of the Worlds trying to pretend it's true thing. That was really clever.
It was just like, it was such a good performance. It was such like an eerie way into the movie. And then like the first thing you hear, or the first thing that even hits you, is just that fucking like flash bulb sound that kind of just sounds like nails on a chalkboard. Like, I don't know, man. I kind of forgot about that sound until I watched it, and I'm like, oh, that's killer. That's badass.
No doubt. Did you, I want to drop this nugget on you, Kev. I hope that you don't know this, but do you know who did the intro?
I do. Yeah, I know.
John Larroquette, my friend. I love that.
A show phantom of a couple of episodes.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
The John Larroquette show has been brought up like 3 or 4 times on the show for sure.
The sound stuff, though, like I read that they went around and recorded sounds in a slaughterhouse, and that was the music and Foley for the movie, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's neat.
Which kind of makes sense because there's some
what do you mean the music and the Foley?
From memory, and I could be wrong here, but from memory there isn't much music, if any, and anything that sounds musical is just kind of like a combination of sounds from slaughterhouses, I guess.
Wow.
All right. Well, let's stick on the soundtrack for a second because the soundtrack was incredibly good. I was just so into it. It was when it shifted, and I don't remember where the shift is in the movie, but it was so good and it just never stopped. And it kept holding and simultaneously holding and building the tension all the way up to the end of the movie. And it didn't give me anxiety. It didn't make my skin crawl, but it worked so well, man. I can't stress that enough. And simplicity was the key. And then they nailed it. Just a tangent off that, simplicity in general is often the key. And this movie, I think, in a general note, does that well.
Mm.
It even like the story it tells, 90% of it is in real time. It doesn't finagle with the timeline. It just kind of is like this happens, and this happens. Like the first time you can really tell that there was a time difference is when we cut back to the girl and the kid with the wheelchair and it's nighttime. And then that is kind of like the oh shit moment. But then you feel fucking dirty and guilty because the next time you see another time shift is when she leaves the house and it's morning. And you're like, oh my God, like it's like you can feel that dirty morning dew, it's really, really cool how simple the time is for that. It's just how slow can we make a day feel? And then in the midst of all the terror, we hide the time skips and now it's morning again. It's cool. It's another one of those technical things. It's badass.
That jump through the window and like you expect it to still be night and it's like, holy fuck, she's been in this house all night.
Second window.
Second time she jumps through a window.
She walked through the first one like a fucking champion. Like she literally like just was still walking as she was going out the window. I was fucking
Dude,
so funny
she
to me.
fucking Wile E. Coyote the fuck out of that window.
Yo, oh my God. Speaking of just silly shit at the end there, what's with the truck driver, bro? I cannot stand that character every time I watch it. He gets out of the truck to help her, and then he throws the thing, and then he gets back in the truck, and then he leaves the truck, and then instead of getting back to the truck, he just kind of leaves the truck and runs off screen. And it's like the funniest shot in the whole movie. I love that. That's kind of one of my favorite things about watching these lower budget movies that are iconic. You can see the strings and you can like appreciate how they were pulled. And I don't know, man. It's so charming. I loved that shit.
He definitely had a truffle shuffle run, man, if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know. I just didn't get the whole like why get back out of the truck? Like, I mean, it's always good when things make logical sense, at least in some way. And for them to get out of the truck was just dumb. Like, why didn't they just get in the truck and stay in the truck? He clearly couldn't cut through the truck with the chainsaw.
We just drive off. Done.
Because here we are talking about it, right? I mean,
that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's why.
I think that's a move that we can look at like it's a horror movie move. It's like whatever, it's stupid characters. But I think the only time that they were lazy is when they kind of were like, all right, and you just run off screen and that's the last time we're going to see you. Everything else makes sense. That was the only time where it kind of felt like a reshoot.
Dude, that truck driver definitely got taken to the murder dungeon, I think. No doubt.
Oh, yeah. No, he was a feast for friggin' crows, man.
Make some good fucking brisket out of that guy.
You know, if Leatherface could fucking run for 40 minutes after that spry girl, there's no way that fucking fat truck driver was getting away.
I didn't stand a chance. Leatherface took some time to do a little dance with his chainsaw before he decided to start chasing him. Yeah, I got this.
I love how he switches skins too throughout. Like he's a woman at one point.
Yeah. He switches skins like he's a fucking video game character.
No, he does. Because I had that note that at one point he's like, I was like, is he trying to be a woman? Like he had it was like a woman's like wig on. Was it like a one piece thing? The face skin and the hair?
No, he had three. He had three masks.
Yeah.
He had the killing mask,
the butcher,
the pretty girl mask, and then like the housewife mask or some shit.
Wow, that is so twisted, man.
Wow, I thought it was all the same mask. He just put makeup on one.
It said that like he had no personality. Like the character development of that was that the character was, obviously mentally stunted and had no personality, and then the mask that was put on was what the personality was, which was kind of interesting. I never kind of picked up on it, but I liked the like the pretty girl mask, like he's serving dinner and he's all like dressed up to serve dinner and has the makeup on and stuff. It's just so twisted.
So weird. And I read that Gunnar Hansen, who plays Leatherface, he went to like a couple of places where mentally disabled people are treated or cared for, to observe them, and he took a lot of time and care because that's how he developed the character. What's the director's name? Toby Hansen, is that it?
Toby Hooper.
Toby Hooper allowed him to develop the character, and he said that so that was the direction that he went, was that Leatherface was a mentally disabled, mentally challenged person, and he went and observed people at these facilities, and he took a lot of time and care to make it authentic and not offensive in any way. And I guess the feedback that he got from regular folks and people that were mentally handicapped was that it was just that. It was not offensive in any way, and it was very spot on and well done. So I thought that was a really interesting little tidbit there, nugget.
It's not really even like specifically punching anywhere either, which I think is
which is great.
Floats that, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think that's part of the thing that sucked me into this movie. Is my first job was at at like an elderly home where like a bunch of people had dementia and so forth like that, and like that conversation between the guy in the wheelchair and the James Franco character was something like it's like I've heard those people kind of talk before, and like you kind of like are like, this conversation's not going anywhere, and then the all the like more sane people are just sitting watching, and they were like, what do we do? The whole time I was watching them in the van, like, are you going to do something? It's like you're so transfixed on like these two characters that are so fucked up,
Totally.
Yeah. I love that James Franco is in this movie now. It's so great.
Speaking of Leatherface Joe in general, can we talk about when we first see him, like how jarring it is and the slam of the door? It's so awesome.
Yeah, no, that shit's hard when he slams the steel door when he gets the first kill.
It's pretty crazy. Especially the callback to the hitchhiker scene where the hitchhiker's talking about the cows twitching after the first blow. And the actors twitching after the first sledgehammer blow in that intro too.
Yes. Wow. Nice one, dude.
Wow.
I didn't even put that together.
I didn't even think of that.
That's probably the most gruesome scene, really.
I think the hammer stuff is tough, dude.
Like most graphic.
Texas Hammer Massacre.
The hammer stuff is crazy. Like when the old man like bangs her head with the hammer in the bucket. Like I think there's one shot where like you can actually not like it's. The shot is that the hammer hits her in the head, and it's just one quick like little frame, and it does enough. It's crazy.
Their
how,
scalp's gone or whatever in that spot.
I gotta say, I was surprised at how not gory the film was.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
From the snippets I remember seeing, like I felt like it was like, all right, going in, I was like, all right, this is going to be a gore fest, you know, and it just wasn't really at all. Like it was graphic, but it did so without like really actually showing a lot, which kind of harkens back to like older monster movies and such, where like, you know, you don't really, it's scary because you don't see what's happening, you know.
Exactly,
you know
man.
what's happening.
Such a great point, Ben. I totally agree with you, man. And I think that, like, you know, I just want to go back to what you said a second ago. I think that opening bit where he first nabs, what's his face, you know, the driver of the van, is almost the scariest scene in the movie, man. Because up until then, you know, there's some tension building, but you don't really, the energy is still kind of calm, and you don't really know what's going to happen. And it's well lit, it's daytime, and you know, you see the house, and you really don't know what's going to happen, man. And then in a split second, man, that freaking door opens, dude comes out, snaps the dude, cracks him in the head, he's laying there twitching, and then he slams the door, and it's just like, whoa, you know. So I agree with you. I think that there's a strong argument that is the scariest part of the movie, you know, or one of the scariest scenes for sure.
What about the eyeball scene where it's just the close-ups of her eyeball,
That
like,
was
cutting
amazing.
around the room?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome, right? That shit was so cool. I have no idea how they got those shots. Again, another like technical feat that I think is just so worth calling out.
It looked like a macro lens for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I suppose that's
Yeah.
obvious enough,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, it was like that, and then they blew it up some more. Like they really like stretched that shit. It was awesome. They got as close as possible as they could.
I think one of my favorite scenes, which is pretty much directly following on from Old Mate getting smashed in the head with the hammer the first time, is the meat hook, where he just grabs the girl and just chucks her up on the meat hook. That was just so fucked.
Mhm. Is that the same girl that like pops
Yeah.
out of the freezer? Oh yeah, that shit's. She has a tough time of it.
It was, and you know what, Chad, again, like going back to what you guys were just saying, like no blood, you know,
Yeah.
like we didn't have to, it's like now that I'm thinking about that comment, I think I really applaud the lack of blood in this movie, because it became very quickly such a staple of horror movies in the 80s, definitely in the 80s and into the 90s too. Of just buckets of blood everywhere. Like all of a sudden it was like, but there had to be buckets of blood, roomfuls of blood for something to be scary or a horror movie. Or it was almost like adding blood in was a way to kind of cover up the crappiness or the lack of scare meter in your movie. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
and this movie has like virtually none in it, and it's so freaky and it's so good.
Yeah, it has like the gory, like just like the first shot out after the monologue is like that really gooey corpse. Like it has things like that, but in terms of the kills, I mean, and that's what ruins. I mean, like I said, it's all this emulation of what people think. There's no heart in it. It's just like, it's killing, like hostile. Ugh. And that's the thing. Those type of movies aren't really. That's why horror is not really respected. But this movie is, for that reason.
Yeah. Well, because this movie is not only a horror movie, this is like a film. I mean, you can say what you want, man, but this is a film. Like, it is beautifully shot. The music's great. Like, the story is told.
It's like where it's, I don't know, it lacks in blood and in gore and things, but it doesn't lack in violence. It's just like almost a near constant assault of things that are going wrong and fucking oddities and things that make you uncomfortable, and then here's a splash of red over an image and a fucking loud noise, and it's like it almost does the opposite sometimes of I think what it is actually doing, where it's quiet, it's quiet, and then suddenly it's fucking here's 1,000 different things at once and no blood, but it's still, you know, it's the most violent thing in the world, and now you have this texture of just I don't know. I think it's just without blood, it supplies overstimulation instead.
Did you guys see that this dude was shooting for a PG rating?
Really?
No way.
I had no. How is that possible?
Dude, he intentionally shot no blood because he wanted to get a PG, and like actually, and then they took it, and the MPAA was like, yeah, that's a fucking X, bro.
What?
And then he had to shoot. He caught like 18 minutes or something out of it, and they were like, "Yeah, that's an R, bro." So he wanted it to be like a PG, like you take your 6-year-old or something.
Yeah, no fucking way.
How is that possible?
I don't know. The dude was clearly too close to the material to think he was going to get away with anything other than an R or an X.
It's wholesome.
I can't believe this dude was shooting for a fucking PG rating. Like, it's just so not going to happen. But it really backs up your point where I think he chose to not have violence on screen because he was seeking a PG rating, but I think it worked against him because, like, the implied violence, like, your imagination makes it way more violent than it was, I think.
Yeah, totally.
And somehow way better.
Yeah. No, totally, yeah.
It's like Jaws. Like, you never see it's the amount of screen time the shark has is so little. You know, it's all about the shadows.
Yeah, Ben was saying before, it's like that Hitchcockian idea of like it's what you don't see that you're afraid of.
Yeah.
In terms of like scariest moments for me, I think just the girl being in that house once they get her, and like when she woke up and she opens her eyes and it's like, oh, where is she? And they're having dinner and it's like, oh, you're still here. It's like, holy fuck, I thought we were out of this. And then your heart starts racing again. You know, it's like it was hard to watch. And the worst scene for me, and my wife made it even worse last night. It was the worst the first time. The old man, you know, I thought he was dead. You know, he seems like he's fucking dead.
I did too, man. I did too.
It's fucked up that he's not dead. When he's sucking on that finger, man.
Oh, God.
It is the most disturbing. So I just had, I have a 3-month-old son, right? And that scene was disturbing to me before, to the point where it was one of the times I paused the movie. And then my wife last night, she was watching it for the first time. And she was like, oh, that's like Walter. And I was like, did you really just compare this guy sucking the finger, like the most disturbing moment, to our son? I was like, no, that's not. And then he starts dancing around. She's like, yeah, just like. I was like, no, please, I'm gonna die.
No, that's pretty twisted, dude.
That's one of the most disturbing scenes for sure.
No doubt.
It is.
Because you're like, is he even like, you think he's just dead, you know?
Yeah.
But it turns out it's the Johnny Knoxville old man makeup from the Jackass movies.
Totally.
Well, fair enough. But I believe that what sells that even more, Ben, is that like she goes up there earlier in the movie, finds the old woman and the old man, and she freaks the fuck out. And then the dude comes down later and they're like, oh, help grandpa down. And I thought that they were just like delusional, help like bringing the corpse down, until he started moving around. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, like he was a mummy that they just kept around. Like they just kept them, the dead fucking corpses up in the attic because,
yeah,
like they were, yeah, exactly. That's precisely what I was thinking.
I wonder if that was intentional.
I think that was all intentional for sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely intentional. But I'm wondering now what was more disturbing, that or Gale's story about his wife talking about the baby sucking on the finger? Because I can't decide.
But not like fucking, not like, oh, that's so fucked up. She's like, oh, that's totally like, well, like, no, it's not.
It's all intertwined now.
Yeah, maybe there's some things we can cut from this show.
There will be, and that will not be one of them.
Yeah,
Oh no!
Keep it in.
That's staying in.
I thought he looked like a Palpatine clone.
Totally.
I think that should be said.
That's your Star Wars death. Nice one.
Other way around, though.
What do you mean? Palpatine looked like him?
Dude, this is 74. Yeah. This is 74. This is way before Palpatine, man.
I love it. The original Palpatine.
He's the OG.
I love it, man. Yeah, this is OG Pal.
The birth of Papa Palpatine.
Right? It's the origin story.
Like the literal Papa Palpatine.
The genesis of Papa Palpatine. That's what this movie is.
In Jarhigo's parlance, it would be like Proto-Palpatine.
Yeah, man. No doubt.
Proto-Palps.
I guess the scene where Johnny Knoxville sucking on the girl's finger is they couldn't get the prop to work. So in the heat of the moment, in the blacked out room full of rotten carcasses that they'd been shooting in all day, the dude just grabbed the girl's finger and sliced it with a razor, and the dude actually like went at it.
I knew that shit looked too real.
Yeah,
No way.
That shit looked crazy.
it sells it, I think.
It's all real here.
This guy was going for a PG rating.
Yeah, but he was going for a PG, exactly.
Wow, that makes that even worse, man.
Yeah, it's pretty
They
gross.
like fucking, I mean, not they like Hollywood, but like so many giant film studios, like just across the world, would like routinely like kill like farm animals and livestock animals for movies.
Oh, sure, man. That scene in Apocalypse Now with the water buffalo is a good example.
Wow.
Oh, Empire of the Sun.
I don't know if I could make a horror movie. Like I've tried writing horror scripts, and I start to feel bad, you know. Like, and then he cuts her open. It's like, meh. Like, can you imagine being these actors and shit like that are like living on these sets? Like I said, we lived like hobos together, 18 people in a small house. Like, I couldn't imagine if it smelt like fucking carcasses, you know.
Oh, totally, dude. They said that fucking they only had one mask of each of the masks for Leatherface, and they didn't want to clean them because they were afraid they'd ruin it, and they couldn't afford another one. So they wore the same costumes for 4 weeks in the 100-degree heat around rotten carcasses.
Yum.
Like,
Holy shit.
dude, the dude that played Leatherface said that they wouldn't go near him by the end of it because he smelled so bad.
Oh,
it was just
my
like, it just
God.
sounded like hell on earth.
You can just see how miserable they actually are, too.
Yeah, you totally buy it.
Bro.
That's the beauty of it. That's what makes this movie so good, but it's gotta be absolute hell to make any of that. Fuck that.
Yeah.
It is.
Like you were talking about Blair Witch earlier, like the process of making these like low budget horror movies, it's a whole other game. You're not really even crafting cinema. You're using it to scare people, and you're trying to figure out how can you push, you know, away from conventions. How can I do it in an effective way that I can afford, and how can I scare these people? It's like, I don't know, man. You see things in these kinds of movies you wouldn't have seen otherwise. Like the genre of horror, I think, pushes more cinematic boundaries than any other genre.
That's an interesting comment.
Like with a drama, you're gonna have your blocking, and it's gonna be your blocking. You can do a lot of cool shit, you can do a lot of new shit, but it's not the same discovery as finding out that, oh, I can make this movie feel like a snuff movie by just making it contrasty and shaking it a lot. You know what I mean? Like the informalism that you need to make an independent horror movie, I think, is fucking ground zero for everything that makes movies now.
Yeah. I've never been a fan of horror, but that's such an interesting point. Like, I never kind of realized the freedom that you have there to discover new ground, I guess. It's like off the map in a way.
Yeah, it's like you got to kind of make up the rules, and it's all for the very like relatable goal of making somebody scared. You know what scares you. How can I do that in a way that's fresh, in a way that I can afford? It's cool.
Wow, so you're not a fan of horror and you still enjoyed this movie?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I just don't like horror movies, but this is it's the granddaddy of horror movies, I guess. I don't know.
I kind of feel the same way, and like I said before, I mean, this is more than a horror movie. I mean, this is a film. It's
Yeah, maybe that's part of it.
It's so much more than just a simple, stupid horror movie. I mean, there's horror movies of all calibers, you know, and this is great. I mean, this is back when the horror genre was not even a genre. You know what I mean? Really, I mean, it probably was, but
Not
you know,
really.
It was still in its or it was still in its infancy. You know, either way. So
Horror movies go way back, man.
Yeah, they do.
yeah, horror movies do go way back. But this is
Some of the first movies ever made, Dracula. Like, I mean,
exactly, man.
Yeah, Nosferatu.
Bela Lugosi, dude, totally. So you're exactly right, Ben. And
But this is like a new incarnation. This kicked off a new generation of horror, I think.
fair enough. Or I could very
Yeah.
easily say that this is more in line with the sort of the Bela Lugosi kind of Dracula movies, where it was like a very taken seriously, certain by the crew and the actors, horror film, but a film, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what makes it so great.
Mm.
I think it's like it kicks off I don't know, the way that those old horror films are is it's not necessarily a character in a mask, but it's by all means a character in a costume. It's not something that is every day. And this guy's wearing a mask, and then you've got, Halloween, and even like the town that dreaded sundown. Like that guy's wearing like a very iconic outfit. But like, I don't know. You think like this movie has snuff film qualities in a way that is more palatable than something like The Last House on the Left. But The Last House on the Left, I think, is kind of the real kickoff for like palatable horror movies that are all about texture and slow burn and then fucking visual assault. Like I don't know. These movies I think kind of came around at the same time. Like I don't know if they're the same year, but they like bubbled up together. And I don't know, man. It's like the hot American summer is something to not fuck with, I think.
Yeah.
It's cool, but like this kind of, I don't know, man. I don't really know what to make of it, but it just seems so American and so of its time. And I appreciate that a lot about this kind of movie.
Yeah, no doubt. I feel like we're at bits and bobs territory. You guys got any little things you want to cover?
Any particular part you wanted to that you liked, disliked, whatever?
I actually, if you don't mind, I'll jump in real quick because we're still on that dinner scene a little bit. Evidently, the dude that played the hitchhiker, Edwin Neal, said filming that scene was the worst time of my life, and I'd been to Vietnam with people trying to kill me. So I guess that shows how bad it was.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
Just to kind of underscore the line you said about the blacked out room.
Wait, that was emaciated James Franco?
Yeah, James Franco went to Nam, bro.
Yes, emaciated James Franco.
Wow, dude. I wonder how many hours a day they were in that room.
I think it took them, they shot for a month, and I think they did, if I remember reading correctly, I think they did 24 hours straight in that room, and it was full of rotting meat.
Oh my God. 24 hours.
Dude, I love this movie, but I never looked into any like research about stuff like that because I think I needed to get away from this movie. Hearing that is so cool, but like it makes so much sense. Fuck.
And validating as to why you didn't do any research about the movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
Movies are a miserable place to be. It's like it is blood, sweat, and tears to put these things together, dude, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Benny, any bits and bobs?
Bits and bobs.
And or bobs.
Yeah. Jerry's hexagonal glasses were pretty insane.
I love it.
They were.
And his like little curly little perm.
He looked like Disco Stew.
He did, dude. He
totally
did look like
did.
Disco Stew.
Just something stamped 70s on it so hard.
Oh, man.
Totally, man.
The wardrobe was so killer. It was so of its time. The bell bottoms were huge.
That's the way they were. I've actually been seeing people wearing those lately. Girls.
Yeah.
Wow, that's coming back again.
It's cool. It's I don't know, man. I think that movie, like the fashion of that movie is just so perfect. Like it really accurately represents just that kind of these kinds of people wearing the shit that they're wearing. Like that guy's shirt was so unbuttoned, and I can picture 1,000 people exactly like that guy in the same year, in the same place. Like it was, I don't know, man. The way that like you have like New York fashion and shit, like you see that in movies, and you see that in places that have a couple $100,000 to put wardrobes and outfits together. It's really sick.
Yeah, no doubt.
Here's one. I really liked, for me, how the sound of that generator running became like a creepy thing during the course of this movie. You know, because like you hear it from a distance in the beginning, and it's like a thing, and they find it, and then, you know, you periodically hear it again throughout the movie, and it's like it kind of starts to build and become this sort of creepy thing on its own, and I kind of dug that.
Mm-hmm.
You could definitely tell that there was like a loop recording going on with the generator.
Okay.
There were these different like little, you know, it wasn't just like somebody recorded the generator for 6 hours and then they used like an hour and a half of it. It was like somebody recorded 5 minutes of the generator and they kept like repeating it over and over again. And there's something there about that makes it worse, that makes it like more grating.
Yes.
Like you hear the rhythm of it.
Yeah, you hear this like little like weird pop and click thing that sort of happens, and then it goes away, and then it happens again. It's like like the loop has started over again. Like it's kind of exhausting, and it adds to the tension.
And the characters are stuck. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, they sit in every. That's the whole thing about this movie in general. They sit in every single moment. Like for too long, but that's what makes it good. Like when she falls into the fucking room with all the bones, they show every bone for like so long.
Mm-hmm. But that was another example of one of those beautiful scenes. Like it's cinematically gorgeous, but it's also creepy as fuck.
Super. Yes, agreed, Chad.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else, Gale, Tristen?
For bits and bobs, you say?
Yeah, any bits or bobs that you liked or we didn't cover?
Yeah. Then one quick thing, just to go off of like the moment that sealed the deal for me when the guy turned the light off, which I think is one of the best moments in cinematic history. When he was poking her when they're driving, and he's like, "You're gonna be all right, don't worry." And he's stabbing her, and then he's like, "Oh, hey, I hope you're comfortable." And I was just like, "Holy fuck, man! Like it's not stopping. Like it never stops."
That was great.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Like I would even talk about that. This is the same. Like it was. We kind of went over it a little bit when we were watching it together last night. It was like when she breaks in, she gets to the gas station, and he like is like, "Oh, I'm gonna take care of you," and then she's like, she has to trust him. He leaves, but then he leaves the door open. And it's like, I don't know, man. There's a shot of her that just lasts so long. And it's like, we were all kind of freaking out about how fucking solid the performance was, mirroring the fact that she's sitting in front of an open door while she knows something's up. It was, I don't know, man. That girl's performance is very cool.
Yeah, she saw the meat and then it was too late.
Oh, it was the meat. Yeah, it was the meat. That was their signifier.
Yeah, that just the like zoomed in crackling meat was so gross.
The sound is great.
So this is somewhat of a nugget and somewhat of a bit and bob, but I wanted
to use it as a segue, man.
All right, this is a segue into nuggets then. I want to provide a mini steak and mustaches segment for this movie because
yes.
Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface, shaved his beard to play Leatherface and then never shaved his beard again as long as he lived.
Wow.
So I just love his commitment to his beard, and I just wanted to call that out.
Does he still work as an actor?
I think he died. If he didn't die, he still has. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that was 50 years ago at this point. Jesus.
I wonder if he grew it out, though, as like to get away from that.
Maybe.
In that character.
It's possible.
I always thought the brother, the James Franco character, had a mustache, but he's just got the Adam Gale crustache.
It's true.
Yeah.
Henceforth, that shall be known as a mustache type in
a crustache. I love it.
Yes, absolutely, man. You just cemented yourself into show lore, bro.
The Adam Gale crustache.
Perfect.
I know. I feel like the Holy Grail right now.
Not too bad. Not too shabby.
Yeah, the crusty Holy Grail. There you go.
Crusty. Sorry.
Word. Any other nuggets?
No. I the only other one I had was the Larroquette one, and you just ruined it for me.
Sorry.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's a snipe chat, and other times I feel like you just ruined it for me. It's all good, man.
I read something about like the shot of Leatherface coming after her with the chainsaw, and like how he was far away, but he filled up the whole screen, and she was like up close. Like there was just something about the composition of that shot. Another thing that's been like emulated, and like how like looming his presence was, and I don't know. It's just like I love every element was really crafted well. I mean, I can't say enough about this movie.
Yeah, I'm with that.
I've got one more nugget where I guess this movie, they spent like 60 grand making it and then another like 80 grand in post-production, which is like something like 700 grand adjusted for inflation. So they ran out of coin and they ended up having to get funding. And so I read this thing about how they got funding and then all the shenanigans with accounting, and they gave away percentage points. And at the end of the day, cast and crew had like $20,000 to split between 20 people or something.
Oh my God.
And so they all got fucked really hard. And so it's like, okay, fine, like the old story of the crew getting fucked. But then it turns out that they got fucked because the backer that backed them was the mafia that were backing Deep Throat. And once like the whole Deep Throat thing blew up, like a judge fucking made them pay 25 grand to everybody or whatever. So I just thought it was crazy that it was mafia funding as well and connected to Deep Throat. It's kind of a wild little thing.
Yeah, it is.
That's insane. That being said, $700,000 is a far cry from our budget.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and this movie should look better. God damn.
And in the 70s, that's a lot of money.
I mean, but I don't know, man. There were still some shortcuts taken that I think were a little silly to take if they had that. Well, that's almost $1 million.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, I guess the other thing too, though, is like $1 million today with the whole like digital editing. We can do post stuff, like even fucking I don't know. Just there's a lot more technology that can be used now, I think. And so maybe,
I don't know if we had 700,000. Whoo, man, we would.
Oh, no doubt.
Shit.
It's so odd, like the way the world perceives independent movies, like in low budget. And, like we've been talking the whole time, like low budget, and you know it is, but at the same time, goddamn, the dream would be that much money. It's like
I love that that's low budget.
I know, right? It's weird. It's the mountain is stacked so high to get into movies. It's the weirdest thing. It's like you really got to have fun with it to make a really cool movie, and I don't know. As miserable as they were, you could tell they had fun with it.
No doubt.
It's one of those things you're glad you did it after you recover from the PTSD. Deaths? Where are we at with deaths, Kev? You got a tally?
As always, but not a big one.
Not so bad.
No, not so terrible.
You guys died like motherfuckers.
Adam started it all. I mean, you guys definitely represented well. As far as guests go, you're only our second guests, or third guests actually. So that's a good thing. Adam, you had the unprecedented pre-show, pre-connection, pre-on-air death. That's never happened. Then I had my ridiculous LGBTQ, couldn't pronounce it to save my life.
You killed it there, though. I think that's redemption.
Well, there's no such thing as redemption for a death. That already came up when we had Vince Clorthow on.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So then I think like 3 of you jumped on the whole resonate thing when I said it unironically, and I decided that you all should die for that. So there was that. And then Adam had a Star Wars death, Tristen had a Star Wars death, and then Tristen ejected on something later on.
The horrifying Russian movie about killing people.
Come and see, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that was it. That's what I had.
Nice.
It's not so bad. I mean, I think we made the world's first resin movie, so I think those resin deaths,
works.
I believe it.
I was part of the resin death.
I appreciate not giving me a death for that finger suck story, honestly.
Yes. No death for that.
I forgot about it until now.
Everybody's trying to forget about it. All right, ratings. Why don't you boys go first?
Yeah, man, I gotta give this. I gotta give it I said last night a 9 out of 10. I think after second viewing, it took away from the 10, but that's just because I was talking a lot during the movie and analyzing it. When I was just absorbing it, it was a fucking 10, man.
Wow,
love it.
Indeed. Well, a score well deserved.
I rated the movie. I would rate the movie a 6.9 out of 10.
There you go.
The point is there's not any boobs, and I think it would hit a 7 for me if there were some boobs.
Oh wow, true.
I don't know, man. Those nipples were a character in this movie. That girl with the blue shirt.
They had screen presence.
Who Leatherfaces or
Leatherfaces
Begging to be freed.
Yeah, well, yeah. Leatherface had some great cans. The last girl's nipples were like the extra character. There's no doubt about it.
What was her name? Marilyn Burns was the actress's name, I think.
Sure. Yes, it was.
Sure, whatever. Next rating.
Yeah, I don't know. It was awesome. It's a really cool movie, but I think it's more of its time than it is something I would watch to get. I don't know. It doesn't scare me in the same way as some of the more, like, not polished, but, you know, some of the higher budget late 70s, early 80s horror movies get me.
Totally reasonable.
All right, that's good. I'm into that. Yeah, good reasoning, good rating, and good reasoning.
I'll go. The algorithm rates all movies against each other, so that's gonna not do very many favors for this movie, considering it's up against every movie ever made.
No,
but I think that it is definitely the granddaddy of horror. It sets the stage for modern horror in my mind. Like it gave birth to the masked slasher style of movie and did it in a way that wasn't cheese dick like so many of the ones that followed.
Also to weird hillbillies out in the middle of nowhere,
that
like
too.
eating people and shit. Yeah.
The classics.
It's very well crafted as an indie film, especially, and it's remarkable what they were able to do with the limitations they had. I still think that for me, horror movies are just not my flavor, and so it ends up in borderline territory at a 4.7. So like a 5 is a good movie, and 6 is a great movie, and a 4 is a borderline movie. So it's like it's just in borderline territory. Although I'm pleased to say that it's better than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh no!
Wow, nice. I'm into that, dude.
That's one of the episodes I listened to, and oh man, we can't get into this now. But
You know what? I never
you
told.
son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
I never told you guys that when I was going back and forth to him, he said, he's like, his message was like, I listened to the Lord of the Rings episode. You guys were kind of hard on it, man. Like, all weepy. Like,
I was like, do I want to be on this show? I don't know, man.
It was so funny, man. I should have brought that up. That was really funny.
That's great. Well, I'm glad I could bring it back in here because this movie is better than Lord of the Rings. Fuck that trilogy.
Oh no, what's happening? I'm so conflicted because I love this movie, but I love.
It's all right, man. Just read the books and you'll be all right. There you go.
I read The Hobbit. I get the story.
All right, Benny, why don't you go ahead? Next?
Yeah, sure. First off, I'd like to say thanks for joining us, Adam and Tristen. It's been really great chatting with you guys and hearing your thoughts and everything.
Yes,
and talking
definitely.
about your movie, which I loved, by the way.
Thank you.
We I guess we're not going to rate that one, but I think people should definitely see it. So, getting to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Look, I'm somebody who has massive anxiety problems, and this movie ratchets tension really fucking hard. So I had to like step 1 degree back behind my ordinary like ego, I guess, and view this from a lens of like, okay, it's a 70s movie. It's kind of goofy. Like if you took the soundtrack from Pretenders and put it to this movie, it might be a comedy. You know, like, or it might be more cartoony.
Wow.
So it's amazing. It's so many things on so many levels. We've talked about it at, I'm going to say it sits at like an 8.
It's reasonable.
And that goes versus other horror movies of its ilk. And, yeah, it definitely is superior, or at least is like the godfather to shit like Friday the 13th or, you know, those kinds of like 80s slasher flicks.
Mm-hmm.
It came out the year I was born. It's got a lot of 70s goodness to it. we've talked a lot about the way the movie looks and the colors, etc. And a lot of that I feel like, and I'm saying I feel like because I don't know, has to do with whatever kind of film they were using on those 16 millimeter cameras, which were probably pretty ubiquitously used in movies of that time.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, no, I don't hate it. I quite enjoy it. But I definitely view it through a certain lens. Otherwise, I would never fucking get through it. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to detach a part of myself from it. Otherwise, the anxiety that I would experience for the 40 minutes of screaming at the end would just like kill me. Like I would never finish. Yes, yeah. If I paused it, I would never go back. Like if I paused it for that, I would never go back to it. I just had to sally forth.
Yeah, it was maybe a mistake. It took half a day to view it, basically.
Okay. I often, Ben and I are in alignment on what we think about a film, and
You're the pillion on my motorcycle again.
yeah, I am, and I think that with a beer, Camacho style, and I think that this movie, I don't know, I'm not a really crazy horror fan. I love a good scare, but this is something more, man. To me anyway, it was a film. It was a cult classic. It was sort of, as Chad said, the granddaddy of many of the horror films. I feel like this was probably not one of the first, but one of the early films or movies that was more film-like, where they put a lot of effort into making it realistic and making it scary, and it sure as shit nailed it. You know what I mean? Like, when I watch things that are funny, a lot of the time I'm watching it and I'm like, that's funny. It doesn't make me laugh necessarily, but you know, my sort of funny meter inside me is like, yeah, that's funny. Similarly with this, like I wasn't scared, but it's a scary movie, you know, and there's so much to like here. The contrast in the light and the lighting and the way it was shot, and really the performances were just fantastic, man. I loved the use of no blood, or minimal blood, rather. I think it made it even better and even scarier. And just the true night kind of, those shots just blew me away. I thought they were fantastic. Whether that was just we screwed up and we couldn't get it right or whatever, it worked to their advantage, and I thought it was fantastic. So I'm actually going to give this thing a 9. I think it was
nice, really,
really good, man. And it was a joy to finally watch this movie after so many years, and so enjoyable. I loved how sucked into it I got immediately. So there you have it.
Word.
I'm so glad you gave it a 9.
Yeah, you're really matching Adam's energy here.
So deserving of a 9, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. So, yeah, that's it. I think I would take a second and echo what Ben said before. Like, it was so great having you guys on the show. I never really even said this, but I really thoroughly enjoyed Pretenders. It was nostalgic for me, and it was it's a good romp, man. It's a good movie. There's a lot of layers there, you know?
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was
really good. Yeah, good stuff.
It was nothing but fun to make. It was the quintessential, you know, first film experience, making your first feature. It was every story you hear about and then some. Like you learn so much making these things, and this was our first real toss at it, and I think it was pretty killer. So thank you.
No, it was good, man. It was a really good effort, and I want to just add too for the fans listening. We didn't really talk a lot about where you guys can see this movie because we can't really get into that just yet. There are going to be places where this is going to be available. We will make sure to either do a mini-sode on it, either with or without the guys, or we will, announce where this movie is available for viewing, because it's definitely worth a watch. It's a funny movie, and it's a great independent film.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it'll be available to watch in the fall. So yeah, definitely.
For to the public.
Yeah, totally.
Actually,
yeah, we can do that.
I don't know. So just as total out of bounds here. we just submitted the new, like the final cut of the trailer, the like the distribution cut of the trailer after they got it. They were like, hey, we need this cut down to 90 seconds instead of 2.5 minutes. So that actually might not be live anymore. We can link the website down below or wherever.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, we can throw a link to the site or something. And
the site has the trailer. The site has a link to, I think, all the music on Spotify.
The press.
All the press stuff, all the photos, the cool. We have Instagram, like a little BTS stock. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
it's our press kit.
Yeah. And, to bounce off all that, thank you guys so much for having us on here. This was like so much fun. It's great discussing movies with people who love movies. Clearly you guys do. Your show is great. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks.
And it's scary to talk about your own art.
No doubt.
And this was not, I knew talking to Kev up front that wasn't going to be the case, because I've heard the show and I've talked to him and I was like, oh, this is just going to be a good time,
Mm-hmm.
And it was. It was really cool to kind of just hear your perspectives and, just talk shop, man. It was fun.
Nice. Glad you guys feel that way.
Yeah, man, it was awesome having you.
Thank you very much.
Anything else you guys want to plug before we wrap this?
Anything we want to actively plug? The next big project I'm working on is it's like a comedy noir. It's if Magnolia was a comedy.
Oh yeah.
So it's really long, winding noir comedy.
Yeah, maybe we'll in the links or whatever, link our website for Journey Home Pictures, our production company, because
we'll definitely, we got to put all that stuff in there.
Yeah, because that has all of our old commercial work and sketch comedy and short films, and then we've got anything coming up. Like we're working on a pilot, we're working on that movie. So anything that comes down the pipeline, if any viewers.
And what's the website?
JourneyHomePictures.com. That's our production company.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Great talking to you guys, and can't wait to hear the episode.
Yeah, right on, man. You guys are proper nerds, so you fit right in.
I was glad to be killed off in many disturbing ways.
Killed off before it started.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, well, folks, thanks so much. We'd like to thank Adam and Tristen for coming on the show. As always, thanks for joining us for this episode of The Pretenders and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Also want to thank the guys for picking this great movie. And that's about it. Chad, what do we got going on next week?
We'll cover The Professional next week.
Ooh, God, Luc Besson, classic. So there you have it, folks. Stay tuned next week for The Professional, and we'll see you on another time.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Goodbye.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode, folks. If you'd like to support the show, there are numerous ways you can do that. You can tell one of your friends or all of your friends to check out the show. You can also rate us and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast muffins. You can also support us on Patreon, folks. We have a Patreon now. It's patreon.com/EBD podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social. We are on all social media channels using the handle @EBD podcast. We spend a lot of time on Instagram, so come and join in on the chat and you can see more stupid crap that we post and talk about. You can find the show notes for this episode in your podcast app choice or at our website, ebd.fm/episodes/117. As always, folks, thank you so much for joining us for this Pretenders Chainsaw Massacre episode. Stay tuned next week for The Professional, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again, folks.
One for C-Lab, two for Troy, three for Wolverine to round out the trio in this episode. Everybody dies.
Beady, beady, beady. Stop into it.